Let's put our hands together in Gassho. From attachment springs grief. From attachment springs fear. From him who is wholly free from attachment, there is no grief. Whence then fear? From the Dhammapada, the words of Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning, and thank you for coming to the Sunday service at Hawaii Betsuin. It seems like the temple reopening is doing well so far since the beginning of the month. I hope you all are in reasonably good health and enjoying the summer season despite the sweltering heat. We're really starting to feel the effects of global warming, and we should take the appropriate measures to keep ourselves comfortable and safe. This month, America observed a very important holiday, and that is, of course, Independence Day. 245 years ago, a new nation was founded upon the ideals of freedom, equality, justice for all, regardless of race, religion, and other class distinction. The founding fathers of this nation forged a new country out of 13 original colonies of people from a distant continent, people who fled their home countries in search of freedom from oppression. The price was not cheap. A violent revolution, resorting to force of arms was necessary for a group of people to break away from control and domination of their mother country's government. And the ideals of democracy, the rule of the people was firmly established, the right to manage governance among themselves. It was all about freedom. Freedom as a word has many meanings. In the context of politics, the interpretation that we usually have of freedom is in contrast to entanglement. Every time a person hears this word freedom, what usually first comes to his mind is that this concept is used in contrast to captivity and bondage. To be free from tyranny, oppression, injustice, and the unwarranted control of the governing or ruling class. Everybody, especially in the US, talks about, demands, struggles, and fights for freedom. The country spends a great portion of its vast resources to promote the ideals of freedom, independence, the rule of the majority, and the protection of the rights of citizens to live in a society free from wants, fears, and excessive control from the ruling elite. However, in Buddhism, freedom takes on an entirely different meaning. To be free in Buddhism is, among other things, to attain liberation from the rounds of samsaric existence, the repeated cycles of births and deaths. The life state of Buddhahood brings us true freedom. It is a state of supreme freedom spanning the three existences, past, present, and future, that brims with the power and wisdom to develop our lives as we wish, in accord with our determination and faith. A word that is closely associated with freedom, and also important for us to ponder upon, is the word freedom's opposite, and that is slavery. Now, slavery in our minds is something that is archaic, a relic of the bygone days of colonialism and forced removal and use of people by other people to do degrading physical work under inhumane conditions. That is the classic definition of slavery. But let us steer back to its meaning in the religious context. And amazingly, the Buddha recognized and taught it to his many disciples and followers several thousands of years ago. Today, it still exists in many forms in our lives, specifically our slavery to our blind passions, to our desires, our wants. A classic example is our being a slave to what many people foolishly deem to be the most important thing to possess in life, and that is, of course, the almighty dollar, greenback, moolah, smackers, money. There is a famous saying that money is the root of all evil. I disagree with that statement a little and would rather say that the love of money is the root of all evil. Money in itself is not bad. I'm not saying that people should get rid of it, but in case you do want to get rid of it, you can drop it in our collection bowl in the front. Of course, I'm just joking. It's the value we attach to money that causes so much trouble because it fosters attachment and greed to it. It is an evil if we choose to call it that, yet something that is necessary for properly functioning in our society. We want it. We feel happy if we have plenty of it, of course. And worst of all, for some of us, we crave it. And despite having more than enough for our needs, we still desire to have more of it. This craving for more, rather than creating happiness, becomes a source of suffering. I've seen enough of this in my lifetime. In my former occupation in healthcare, I've worked with people who work long hours, 7 days a week without taking any rest days, resulting in poorer health and a decrease in their competence to do their jobs properly. All just to make more money, even though they already possess big houses, fancy cars, clothes, jewelry, and so on. But that's their business, not mine. Infighting for the inheritance among siblings after a parent has passed away is another example, and so are frivolous lawsuits just because a fast food restaurant's coffee was too hot, not having a menu that fits a particular culture, the portions served are too small or unappetizing, and so on, all filed in order to get a huge settlement of money. Ridiculous but true. Worldly possessions such as money are just that, worldly. We can no longer use them when we leave this physical existence. And for some of us who have a lot more than we need, we could never use all of them. How on earth, for example, can billionaires spend all that money they have in their lifetimes? How can misers hold on to it and be afraid of spending it? The acronym MONEY, money, can stand for momentarily owned, never eternally yours. It is not something we can own and use forever. Money is also called currency because it has to circulate, like an electric current, to be used wisely for the benefit of the possessor and others. Money is only valuable if it is spent. It is not there to decorate the inside of our wallets or purses. It is not meant to be owned or hoarded by only a select few in the world. The lure of money is rooted in the value we foolish human beings attach to it. If we reflect for a minute and see money or any other possessions we have for what they truly are, if we look at material things with the wisdom eye of enlightenment, we will recognize their true nature. This thing called money, in ultimate reality, are just pieces of special paper with numbers and letters printed in green ink, in the case of the US dollar. Or they are discs made of metal and embossed with numbers or outlines of faces of famous peoples. And yet people fight and sometimes kill each other over these pieces of green paper or metal discs. Why? Again, it's because of the value we attach to them. It's the artificial meaning and scarcity we assign to currency that makes it something we want to keep in as large numbers as we possibly can for as long as we can. And for some, something that they are willing to fight and kill for. During the Second World War in the Philippines, the Japanese occupied the country and forced the people to use what's called occupation money, which were printed in large volumes. When Japan lost the war and the hated Japanese invaders were driven out of the country, those occupation money were replaced with American money, and so lost all their value. The Japanese occupation money became worthless pieces of scrap paper. They were used not for spending, but burned for making fire or used as toilet paper. The basic material for this occupation money didn't change. It was still made of paper and ink, but the value of it is now gone. Nobody wanted them anymore. I doubt it very much if people would still fight or kill each other for something that's already worthless. The whole point of this example is a material thing is only valuable when we make it valuable. Our minds determine the thing's usefulness or worth. If we recognize the real nature of all material wealth or possessions, we wouldn't be so much attached to them, and our cravings for more would be less. Less attachment and cravings means less suffering. So, money is really no more evil than any other resources. Using it wisely without undue attachment, sharing its benefits with others to empower their lives and ours, makes it a valuable commodity that can be a source of temporary pleasure. Letting money control our actions and thoughts, changes and possesses us, makes it a source of suffering and misery instead. We then become a slave to it. It becomes the master over us rather than the other way around. Are we willing to surrender our freedom and peace of mind to something that is impermanent and fleeting? It is not generally known to many, but the Buddha, during his lifetime, gave many teachings on how to acquire fortune and money, not to promote greed and attachment, but rather to guide us on how to use wealth wisely. The rather obscure Sigalovada and Alavaka Sutras contain sections of the teachings of the Buddha on how to view and handle material things properly. The Buddha is no stranger to material opulence. He was born as a prince. His father was the king of the Shakya clan, and he grew up lacking in nothing. Yet, his wisdom enabled him to transcend material desires and pursue a higher level of development, that is, spiritually. Shakyamuni Buddha expounded that the foundation of true happiness is not in abundance of material possessions, but rather grounded in inner peace, which depends on warm heartedness, the ability to cherish others, sincerely care for others' well being and happiness. To rely on worldly possessions for happiness puts us in a position of always wanting and needing, because our desires, our blind passions, are always seeking to be satisfied. Material wealth, such as money, is a numbers game. If we rely on it alone for happiness, then we will always be fall short. Ultimately, all things, all phenomena are empty. Nothing lasts forever. Only the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha, is timeless and enduring, the source of absolute happiness, unfettered by the limitation of samsaric existence. We should never think that the only path to happiness is the accumulation of material wealth. True happiness is not having what we want, but wanting what we already have. Let's use our resources wisely for our own and others' benefit and never be attached to them. Then we can truly be free from the tyranny and excessive demands of our egos and achieve inner peace and contentment. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu.